Alright, so today we're going to learn about food and climate change, the relationship between our food, our diet, and the linking of it to some more serious problems in the world, such as climate change or environmental pollution. What we eat and how the food is produced affects our health but also the environment. What does food have to do with climate change? What we eat and how the food is produced affects our health but also the environment. Food needs to be grown and processed, transported, distributed, prepared, consumed, and sometimes disposed of. Each of these steps creates greenhouse gases that trap the sun's heat and contribute to climate change. About a third of all human-caused greenhouse gas emissions is linked to food. The largest chunk of food-related greenhouse gases comes from agriculture and land use. This includes, for instance, methane from cattle's digestive process, nitrous oxide from fertilizers used for crop production, carbon dioxide from cutting down forests for the expansion of farmland, other agriculture emissions from manual management, right cultivation, burning of crop residues, and the use of fuel on farms. A much smaller share of the greenhouse gas emissions of food are caused by refrigeration and transport of food, industrial processes such as the production of paper and aluminum for packaging, the management of food waste. Which foods cause the most greenhouse gas emissions? The climate impact of food is measured in terms of greenhouse gas emission intensity. The emissions intensity is expressed in kilograms of carbon dioxide equivalents, which includes not only CO2 but all greenhouse gases per kilogram of food, per gram of protein, or per calorie. Animal-based foods, especially red meat, dairy, and farmed shrimp, are generally associated with the highest greenhouse gas emissions. This is because meat production often requires extensive grasslands, which is often created by cutting down trees, releasing carbon dioxide stored in forests. Cows and sheep emit methane as they digest grass and plants. The cattle's waste on pastures and chemical fertilizers used on crops for cattle feed emit nitrous oxide, another powerful greenhouse gas. Shrimp farms often occupy coastal lands formerly covered in mangrove forest, which absorb huge amounts of carbon. The large carbon footprint of shrimp or prawns is mainly due to the stored carbon that is released into the atmosphere when mangroves are cut down to create shrimp farms. Plant-based foods such as fruits and vegetables, whole grains, beans, peas and nuts, and lentils generally use less energy, land, and water, and have lower greenhouse gas intensities than animal-based foods. Here are 3 charts showing the carbon footprint of different food products. Emissions can be compared based on weight per kilogram of food or in terms of nutritional units, per 100 grams of protein or per 1,000 kilocalories, which show us how efficiently different foods supply protein or energy. For example, look at this chart. This is like bar chart that illustrate kilograms of greenhouse gas emissions per kilogram of food. As you can see, beef always contributes the largest carbon emission in the atmosphere, and lamb, shellfish, cheese, fish, and pork comes the following. And one of the least carbon emission contributor is nuts. Nuts are one of my favorite food, regardless of nuts is one of my favorite food regarding vegetables and seeds, something like that. It is really nutritious too and have the potential of making me full for the whole day. Next, we have the pie chart of kilograms of greenhouse gas emissions per 100 grams of protein. So beef is also leads that the largest contribution of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. And nuts is the lowest with only 1.3 kilograms of greenhouse gas emissions. Now let's come to kilograms of greenhouse gas emissions per 1,000 kilocalories, and there's a slight difference between these 3 diagrams. Is that shellfish now is the largest contributor of greenhouse gas emissions regarding kilocalories, and the lowest is also nuts. Here's some notes. You can pause this video to kind of like read this description, but I've just had a discussion for you guys, so I think you'll pretty have a better understanding about what I'm talking about too. So you can pause this video to see the notes. How can food-related emissions be reduced? Reducing emissions from the food sector requires changes at all stages, from producers to consumers. When appropriate, shifting food systems toward plant-rich diets with more plant protein, such as beans, chickpeas, lentils, nuts and grains, a reduced amount of animal-based foods, like meat and dairy, and less saturated fats, butter, milk, cheese, meat, coconut oil, and palm oil, can lead to a significant reduction in greenhouse gas emissions compared to current dietary patterns in most industrialized countries. Alternative proteins, such as plant-based meat and dairy substitutes, insect-based proteins, and cell-based cultivated meat, provide promising prospects and are attracting growing demand, financial investment, and technological innovation. But animals' products remain an important source of food security, nutrition, livelihoods for large numbers of rural populations around the world. Improved feeds and feeding techniques can reduce methane generated during cattle's digestion, as well as the amount of gases released by decomposing manure. Smaller herd sizes with fewer, more productive animals can also help, and better agricultural practices such as improved manure and fertilizer management, rotational grazing to maintain healthy soil to store carbon, and the restoration of degraded lands can significantly reduce greenhouse gas emissions. At the same time, reducing food waste is key. Almost 1 billion tons of food, 17% of all food available to consumers worldwide, goes into trash bins every year. Producing, transporting, and letting that food rot contribute more than 8% of global greenhouse gas emissions. A food waste world country, it will be the third largest emitting country in the world. That is a surprising fact I've learned today. So what can you do to actually cut down your diet and reduce the impacts of climate change or your food supplies on the environmental problems? First, you should eat healthier meals. Start eating a more plant-rich, balanced diet, one that provides energy and nutrients from several different food groups, and reduce foods that are harder on our planet. Meat and dairy can be important sources of proteins and micronutrients, particularly in lower-income countries where diets lack diversity. But in most high-income countries, shifting to more plant-based foods promotes better health and significantly lowers your environmental impact compared to the average meat-based diet. What you eat is much more important than how far the food has traveled or how much packaging it has. Transport and packaging typically account for a small fraction of food's greenhouse gas emissions. Cut your food waste. Think about how you buy, prepare, and dispose of food. When you throw away food, you're also wasting the energy, land, water, and fertilizer that was used to produce, package, and transport it. Only buy what you need and use up what you buy. And don't shy away from buying imperfect looking fruits and vegetables they might otherwise get thrown out. Stop the waste, save money, reduce emissions, and help preserve resources for future generations. If you do not need to throw out food, composting your leftovers can reduce the amount of methane and CO2 released by the organic waste. Try a sustainable recipe. Have a look at these recipes by leading chefs who are cooking up dishes that are not only delicious but also good for you and the planet. You can actually try to access these links, but let's just take a closer look about it. Okay, so sustainable recipes, I'll put the link of this down below. So if you're interested in making your own food more environmentally friendly to the ecology, you can try these recipes out. Shop with reusable bag. The production, use and disposal of plastics contribute to climate change. Instead of plastic bag, use your own reusable bag and reduce the amount of plastic waste in our world. So for more tips, check out the Act Now campaign. That's pretty much everything about the relationship between our diet and climate change. Overall, I think that our diet actually has a negative or a positive impact on the climate change. It's up to you. It's up to what you eat and how you kind of like transport the food and packaging process, so much more. So I think that you should cut down on the meat products you're consuming every single day, and but not become a vegetarian, because I know vegetarian is really challenging task. You have to eat plant-based food, which some people find challenging and really difficult to make that transformation. For me, if I were you, I would definitely just stop, kind of like cut down on the amount of meat, but not stop eating it altogether, because yeah, meat plays a crucial part in our daily diet. It not only kind of like serve for so many people, but also has a lot of kind of like nutrients and vitamins that are essential for our human health and make us healthier and more energetic than ever before. So you have to know how to balance your diet with enough meat only, not to exaggerate the amount of it, because I know that many of you guys love eating meat, but you need to restrict the usage and restrict the kind of like amount of meat that you are eating every single day, and instead you can eating more plant-based foods, vegetables and fruits, which contribute less methane and greenhouse gases into the atmosphere by producing and transporting these food to the supermarket for selling purposes. Right, so that's pretty much everything I want to say about this video. If you have any more questions regarding to this topic, just feel free to comment down below and I'll make sure to check it out. Thank you and goodbye.